Wow, building on time? I've been wanting to try to build something for speed for a long time. Let's learn how to build a futuristic treehouse.
Round 1.
I am making a futuristic treehouse, so I start with the tree first. I build the trunk from oak wood because a treehouse still needs to feel like a real tree, even if the home on top looks modern. I make the base a little thicker than the upper part because a wide bottom looks more stable, and it helps the trunk feel like it can carry the weight above it. After that, I build a 2-story house on top. I use white concrete for the base and for some wall parts because white concrete looks clean, smooth, and futuristic. For the other walls, I use light blue glass panes. Glass panes are thin, so they look better than full blocks for big windows. And the light blue color gives the house a cool high-tech feeling. Then I place leaves under the house, on some of the walls, and on the top. I do that because this build needs 2 ideas at the same time. The white concrete and glass show the future, and the leaves keep it connected to nature. Without the leaves, it would just look like a modern box on a pole. Phew, I barely made it on time. Great, my futuristic treehouse is ready.
Hello.
Hey, Banana Kid, look, I built it in just 1 minute. Do you like?
Yay!
Really? I am very glad that you like my makeshift construction. Maybe then you'll try to build a futuristic treehouse yourself in just 10 minutes?
Ta-da!
They ran to the place. This is where your building will be. Are you ready?
Yay!
Then go ahead.
Round 2.
I can see Banana Kid starting his futuristic treehouse in a funny way because he does not begin with the tree at all. First, he builds a house on the ground. That is actually not a bad idea because a treehouse can feel more believable when it has a lower base or an entry building. He uses mostly oak planks for the walls, and oak is a good choice if you want a warm, natural look. Futuristic builds can become too cold if every block is white or gray, so wood helps keep the place friendly. But he also knows the theme says modern, so he mixes in gray concrete and white concrete slabs. Gray concrete gives the walls a cleaner and more city-like feel, while white slabs are nice for trim and thin details because slabs do not look as heavy as full blocks. I think he is trying to make a house that stands between 2 styles. One part says tree and nature, and the other part says future. That is a smart start for this kind of build. Now Banana Kid keeps shaping the walls of the ground house, and I can tell he is trying to balance the materials instead of dumping one block everywhere. Oak planks stay the main wall block, which is good because repeating one material gives the build a clear identity. Then the gray concrete comes in as a modern accent. Gray works really well with wood because the warm brown and the cool gray push against each other without fighting too much. The white concrete slabs help make the edges lighter, and that matters because modern houses often look best when some parts feel thin and clean. Slabs are useful for that. They can act like ledges, frames, or neat little layers between bigger blocks. If he built everything from full oak blocks, the house would look too rustic. If he used only concrete, it would stop feeling like a treehouse. By mixing them, he keeps the build in the middle. I did not expect Banana Kid to think this much, but the style is starting to make sense. After the wall shape is ready, Banana Kid works on the windows. He places light blue glass panes, and I think that is one of the best choices in the whole build. Banana Kid has only 7 minutes left. He needs to hurry up. Light blue glass looks more futuristic than normal clear glass because it feels a bit like tinted windows on a modern building. Panes are also better than full glass blocks for houses since they are thinner and let the walls look less chunky. Under the windows, he adds leaves, and that part is pretty nice too. Leaves under windows work like little planters, so the house starts feeling lived in instead of empty. Plants are useful in design because they soften hard, straight lines. Modern builds often use a lot of square edges, and leaves break that up with a more organic shape. That is extra important here because the theme is still a treehouse. The windows say future, but the leaves remind everybody that this place belongs in a tree setting and not in the middle of a gray city street. Behind the house, Banana Kid finally starts the tree part. He builds a trunk from oak wood, and he makes it tall enough to support the idea of a raised home, even though the house itself is down on the ground. I think he wants the tree and the house to feel connected like one little complex instead of one thing balancing on top of another. Oak wood is a good trunk block because the bark texture reads clearly from far away, and texture matters on something vertical and simple like a trunk. Half the time, is he sure he'll make it? A trunk made from planks would look fake, but bark looks natural. He keeps the trunk thick enough that it does not feel weak next to the house. That is important for visual physics. If the trunk is too skinny, the viewer stops believing it could support anything. A thicker trunk makes the whole build feel safer and older, like the tree has been growing there for a long time. It also gives him more room to add details inside and around it later. Banana Kid cuts openings into the trunk for windows and a door, and this is where the tree starts becoming more than decoration. By adding a door, he turns the trunk into a usable part of the build. That means the tree is not just background. It is a space that people can enter, and that makes the whole project more interesting. The windows are useful too, because a solid trunk can look heavy and dark if there are no openings. Small window holes help bring light inside and also stop the bark wall from feeling too plain. He places the openings carefully so the trunk still looks strong. That is a good building habit. If you remove too many blocks from one side of a small structure, the shape starts looking broken. A few openings are enough to add life without ruining the form. I kind of like that the tree is doing two jobs here. It is part natural support, and it is also becoming a vertical room or stair tower behind the main house. Banana Kid wraps a spiral staircase around the trunk using white concrete slabs. I have to say, this part is pretty cool. A spiral stair is a smart shape when you want to move upward around a round or square core without taking too much extra space. If he built a straight staircase, it would stick out a lot and make the area around the trunk messy. Slabs are a great stair material here because they look thinner and lighter than full blocks, and that gives the whole staircase a more futuristic feeling. Minutes to go. Banana Kid, hurry up! White also connects the staircase to the modern parts of the ground house, so even though the trunk is natural oak wood, the path climbing around it looks engineered and clean. The contrast actually helps. Nature in the middle, technology around it. I also like that the staircase stays visible on the outside. It becomes part of the design, not just a hidden utility path. Sometimes movement itself can be decoration, and this spiral line makes the trunk look more active and more alive. At the top, Banana Kid builds a big leaf canopy, but he leaves it hollow inside. That is a good choice, because a giant solid lump of leaves can look too heavy and too dark. A hollow canopy has volume on the outside, so it still reads like a tree crown. But it avoids becoming one giant green cube. That makes the shape look more natural. Real tree crowns are not solid blocks anyway. They have air inside and light moving through them. By keeping the canopy empty in the middle, he also saves visual space for the trunk and the staircase below. The leaf mass is large, but it does not crush the rest of the build. I think that helps the whole thing feel balanced. The ground house gives a modern living area, the oak trunk gives the nature part, the white spiral stair ties the future style back in, and the canopy finishes the tree shape without making it too bulky. It is a strange idea for a treehouse, but it actually works pretty well. There are only a few minutes left. Banana seems to be finishing up already.
Where did everyone run off to? Hey guys, what's that noise you're making?
Banana Kid and I are building a futuristic treehouse for a while, JJ. Who did it better?
Oh, both of your buildings look great, but I think it's up to the audience to decide who did the best.
Yes, JJ, you're right. Maybe then you have comments on the construction of Banana Kid.
Yes, it seems to me that you could have built much more during this time, as if you had built an ordinary tree in the backyard.
I totally agree with you, JJ. Maybe then you can build your futuristic treehouse in 15 minutes.
Okay, then let's run to the place.
JJ, good luck to you. We'll wait in the house.
That's good.
Thanks, guys. Then I'm starting. Round 3. I begin by constructing a wide oak trunk, because the entire project depends on that central natural core. A futuristic treehouse still needs a convincing tree, and the trunk has to look strong enough to support upper floors, bridges, and decorative mass. I deliberately make it broad rather than thin. In visual design, width suggests strength, and in structural thinking, a larger base creates a more believable load path from the top down to the ground. Inside the footprint of the trunk, I replace the dirt blocks with oak wood as well. This helps the tree feel rooted and intentional instead of hollow and weak at ground level. Using the same wood inside also creates a consistent material language, so the trunk reads as one complete body rather than a shell around natural terrain. Oak is the right choice here because its bark texture is recognizable and warm, which is useful when I later introduce cooler futuristic materials around it. The contrast will be much clearer if the natural core is already established with confidence. At the front of the trunk, I create the main entrance and begin a short corridor in a futuristic style. I use quartz for the ceiling because quartz is bright, clean, and smooth, which immediately gives the passage a modern identity. For the floor, I choose oak planks. That keeps the corridor connected to the tree and stops the design from becoming too cold. On the sides, I install blue glass panes as the walls. Panes are important here because they are thin and elegant, and blue glass suggests advanced architecture without blocking too much light. The corridor is not very long, because long tunnels would make the build feel heavy and disconnected from the trunk. A short corridor acts more like a controlled transition between nature and technology. That is the whole concept of this project. I want the player to step through bark and wood, then immediately feel quartz, glass, and order. This kind of contrast is strongest when the movement from one zone to the next is clear and intentional. After finishing the first corridor, I repeat the concept on the other sides of the trunk and build 3 more matching passages. Placing a corridor on each side creates balance and gives the treehouse a radial plan, which is very useful for circulation. A central core with access in multiple directions feels more advanced than a single front door, and it also allows the upper structure to grow evenly. I keep the same materials on all 4 corridors so the design remains coherent. Quartz on top reflects light, oak below keeps warmth, and blue glass creates the futuristic shell. This repeated pattern also teaches a simple building principle. When a structure is large and unusual, repetition helps the eye understand it. The player learns the rule once and then recognizes it everywhere else. I make sure the corridors do not extend too far from the trunk because short spans look more believable. In visual physics, elements attached close to a strong core feel supported, while long, unsupported arms often look weak or accidental. With the ground level organized, I extend the trunk upward and then begin the next level of construction above the corridor entrances. On each side, I add a new floor made from quartz. This is where the futuristic architecture starts to sit directly on the natural trunk. Quartz works especially well for elevated floors because its brightness helps each platform stand out clearly against the bark. A floating-looking white floor above dark wood creates a strong visual break, and that contrast tells the viewer that this is a designed living space rather than part of the tree itself. I keep the floors aligned with the corridor directions because alignment creates order. If the upper rooms were rotated randomly, the build would feel chaotic. Good futuristic design often depends on clean geometry and clear repetition. At the same time, the trunk remains visible between the white platforms, so nature still acts as the main spine. That relationship is important. The house should not erase the tree. It should look like technology is growing around it in a controlled way. As I continue upward, I keep building the trunk and gradually close some of the surrounding areas with quartz blocks. This is a deliberate symbolic step. Oak wood represents the natural world, while quartz represents future architecture, cleanliness, and engineered precision. By layering quartz around sections of the trunk, I am visually joining those two ideas. The goal is not to hide the tree completely. The goal is to let the modern structure partially wrap it, almost like a protective shell or a research habitat built around a living organism. This blend works because the materials are very different in texture and tone. Oak has visible bark lines and warmth, while quartz is flat, pale, and orderly. When contrasting materials are used carefully, each one becomes more readable. I also close these sections gradually instead of all at once. A gradual transition feels more organic and believable. It suggests evolution, as if the building adapted itself to the tree rather than replacing it in a single harsh step. Higher up, I add a blue glass layer, then another quartz layer above it, and finally integrate leaves around that zone. This stack of materials is very useful for communicating the theme clearly. Blue glass gives a high-tech feeling and allows light to pass through. Quartz frames and protects the structure, and leaves return the eye to nature. Layering materials in this order creates a smooth visual transition instead of an abrupt clash. The eye moves from bark to quartz, from quartz to glass, and from glass back into green plant life. This is an example of how sequencing can help a complicated design feel easy to read. I also place the materials at different heights to create depth. If everything sat on the same flat plane, the build would look like a wall collage. Depth makes architecture feel intentional and three-dimensional. At this point, the treehouse is no longer just a trunk with rooms. It is becoming a vertical environment where nature and future architecture overlap in several connected layers. Above that transition zone, I continue the trunk further and slowly add more floors. I do not make these upper levels as separate little rooms with random shapes. Instead, I treat them more like one connected platform system. A platform approach is useful in a vertical tree build because it keeps the structure open and airy. Full enclosed boxes stacked high around a trunk can become too heavy and block the natural shape. Platforms allow the trunk to remain visible while still creating usable space. I place them carefully so they feel supported by the main core, and I keep their edges readable so players can understand where they can walk. Open platforms also improve views, which is important in a treehouse. Height should feel rewarding. From a design perspective, these levels begin to work like terraces or decks suspended around the living tree. That gives the project a more advanced, eco-futuristic character than a normal house simply placed on top of wood. On one of the larger upper platforms, I create farm beds. This adds a practical survival function and also strengthens the idea that the structure is a living home rather than a sculpture. Food growing areas are valuable in design because they introduce texture, color change over time, and a clear sense of daily use. I place the beds in a way that leaves enough movement space around them because a farm should be accessible and easy to maintain. Then, above the beds, I build another set of platforms from quartz and glass, forming a kind of greenhouse. Quartz creates the clean frame, while glass allows sunlight to reach the crops. That makes sense both visually and practically. A greenhouse should feel bright and protected at the same time. Using these materials above a tree platform also reinforces the project theme once again. Nature grows below, and futuristic architecture shelters it from above. This is a simple but effective way to show cooperation between organic life and engineered design within one vertical build. During the upper construction, I use birch fences to connect the high levels with the middle and lower parts of the build. Birch fences are an interesting choice because they are lighter in color than oak, so they remain visible against both the trunk and the quartz. That makes them useful as connector elements, almost like light support lines or rail-linked braces. In a realistic sense, vertical connections help explain how separate floors relate to one another. Even if Minecraft does not require all the same engineering as real life, the eye still wants to see relationships between masses. The birch fences suggest that the upper structures are tied back to the main body instead of floating without logic. They also add a more delicate rhythm to the sides of the build. Thick blocks can make a vertical structure look bulky, but thin fence lines keep some elegance. Good architecture often depends on mixing strong masses with lighter details. These fence connections do exactly that, while helping the whole treehouse feel more integrated. At the top, I build the crown of the tree from leaves. I do not make it extremely wide because a very broad crown could visually crush the futuristic platforms beneath it. Instead, I keep it controlled but still large enough to feel like a real canopy. Scale is important here. The crown must be big enough to finish the tree shape, yet not so massive that the house disappears under one giant green blob. I add enough volume to create a rounded, natural feeling, and I vary the leaf placement so the canopy has depth rather than a perfectly flat outside shell. Irregular edges help leaves look organic. This crown is more than decoration. It acts like the visual conclusion of the entire vertical composition. The build rises from heavy trunk to white platforms, to glass, to farms, and finally into foliage. That upward progression tells a clear story. A strong top also matters for silhouette. From far away, the leaf crown confirms that this is still a tree first, even with all the futuristic elements around it. Back inside the trunk, I add another inner trunk made of wood. This gives the center more depth and makes the interior feel like a real living core instead of a hollow tube. An inner trunk is a good design move because it preserves the idea of the tree passing all the way through the structure, even while rooms and platforms surround it. I also complete interior floors opposite each of the outer quartz levels. This creates a clear relationship between the outside decks and the inside circulation spaces. Whenever an external platform exists, there is a matching internal landing or room edge, so movement feels logical. I keep using wood inside the core because the center of the build should remain natural and warm. Quartz belongs more to the surrounding architecture, while the heart of the tree needs to stay true to its identity. This contrast between inner wood and outer white floors helps the player understand the plan immediately. The interior now feels layered, useful, and structurally connected. On the middle level, I use commands to fill the entire floor area with water and create an open-top pool. Commands are very useful here because water placement over a broad interior area can be slow and uneven by hand. With commands, I can produce a clean, level surface quickly. The pool works well in this build because water introduces a third natural element alongside wood and leaves. It also helps cool the space visually. Blue water inside a warm wooden trunk creates a calm atmosphere, especially when natural light can enter from above. I leave the top open so the pool can feel connected to the vertical interior rather than hidden in a sealed room. Open space above water makes the area feel larger and more luxurious. From a design point of view, this level acts as a relaxation zone in the middle of a living tree. It is a good reminder that futuristic architecture does not always need more machines. Sometimes the most advanced feeling comes from comfort, light, and clean environmental design. To connect all of these levels, I build a spiral staircase inside the trunk from oak slabs. A spiral staircase is ideal in a central core because it saves space while giving continuous vertical movement. Oak slabs are especially useful for this because they create a smoother curve than full blocks and still match the natural wood interior. Since the staircase winds around the center, the player keeps seeing different angles of the trunk, the pool, and the connected floors while moving upward. That makes the inside feel active and layered. I also place dirt blocks on parts of the trunk and plant flowers there, then frame those small planters with oak trapdoors. The trapdoors act like clean borders around the soil, which helps the planted areas feel intentional instead of random dirt patches. Flowers are very helpful in a futuristic treehouse because they add small points of color and prove that the structure supports living growth. They soften the architecture and keep the whole interior from becoming too mechanical or too plain. It is high time for furniture. On the first floor, I place a bed, a nightstand, and a lamp to create a clear sleeping area. In another room, I set down a brewing stand, a cauldron filled with water, and an armor stand. In a third room, I place furnaces and chests. After furnishing the lower level, I go looking for more space where additional rooms can fit naturally. I climb above the pool area and notice that parts of the wooden wall are hiding the flower planters from view. I add a television, another sofa, wardrobes for clothes and shoes, bookshelves, and a dressing table. This lower room becomes a mixed comfort and lifestyle space. The television creates a modern focal point, while the wardrobes and dressing table give the room daily function. Bookshelves add vertical texture and make the area feel more lived in and thoughtful. By placing different room types on neighboring levels, I create variety without losing control of the overall layout. The result is a treehouse that feels complete from root to crown. It has circulation, farming, water, bedrooms, work areas, and relaxed living spaces. Great! My futuristic treehouse is ready! It's time for me to show it to the guys.
What?
Wow, JJ, you've got an incredible futuristic treehouse. You made it in the best possible style.
Thank you guys. I am very glad that you liked my building. Friends, be sure to write in the comments whose building you liked the most. Well, I think it's time for us to finish.
Yes, JJ, you're right.
Subscribe and like. Bye-bye.